Oh, boomtastic fan of the Letterman Jacket Nation, what is going on? I'm your host, Pat Ruffino, joined by me by the lovable Tucker Hoadley. What's going on tonight, Tuck? I'm loving it, man. We got an AFC East preview tonight, so you know how it is, man. I'm really excited about it. I just... A lot of things are going on, and it's like I said in our earlier videos, which if you're not subscribed to the YouTube, you're not getting that. But there's so much potential, man, going on. And that's what the free agency period is. But with so many moves, you guys need two people to go over it. So why not Tuck and I, man? Like, we're cool guys, yeah. We both are college. We both graduated from college. So
right, exactly. So we know what we're talking about, right? So especially having grown up somewhat as Jets fans, we do have always kind of kept a finger on the pulse in the AFC East. That's not necessarily a hard thing to do when the most successful team in the league comes out of this division. But we're actually going to save them for last, save the best for last. Maybe it irks me to say that, but they've actually made the fewest number of moves, probably because they are the most successful team in the league. So, starting with a team that has not been the most successful team in the league recently, the New York Jets. The team that I grew up rooting for. They've made a move where they have now traded up to get that number 3 pick from the Colts.
Gross.
Sending. Well, I mean, they send along a 2 second-round picks this year, both in the top 50, a 37 and a 49.
Okay, so two guards. Two guards.
I'm sorry?
2 guards.
Right, yeah, so great guard selection, especially according to Pat's book. But they're also sending along a second-rounder in next year's draft, 2019. The Colts actually did tweet out, "Pleasure doing business with you." So that I thought was just an interesting caveat. But to me, what this says for the Jets is that it guarantees a quarterback selection. I know Mike Florio said, let's not jump the gun on that. They might want to take, depending on how everything falls, they might want to take the best player that's not a quarterback, somebody like Saquon Barkley or Bradley Chubb, somebody that's the best at their position. But I feel like the way it's going to fall out, the best case scenario for the Jets would be, if let's say the Cleveland Browns, they said they've basically said, or the consensus is that they're going quarterback with the number 1 overall selection. I've said in the past that I think Josh Allen is just a connection. Like, to me, he just is a Cleveland Browns quarterback in everything that they've taken recently. So if it goes quarterback and then Giants, you have to hope, if you're a Jets fan or the Jets GM, you have to hope that the Giants go somewhere other than quarterback. They have Eli Manning and they have Davis Webb, a guy that they've liked for a few years. So you have to kind of hope that you get more than just Baker Mayfield left sitting there, or something like, I think the most likely thing would be Josh Allen and Baker Mayfield still sitting there. And then, what do you do from there? How do you proceed? Pat, do you want to chime in on the top of the draft order now that the Jets have made a change?
Well, it doesn't matter what they do. They're going to jack it up.
Like, honestly, Mike Florio did allude to that, that they may want to go a different position just because it's been a tough evaluation process for them in the past to find a quarterback.
Yeah, this is pretty outrageous. The move is pretty ridiculous. I don't know what they're thinking. I didn't think the Colts were going to take anyone. I didn't think the Browns were going to take anyone at 4, whether it was going to be Minka Fitzpatrick or Quentin Nelson. Joe Thomas retiring, so that's a big deal, obviously. After that, man, I really, 5 is the Broncos. They signed Case Keenum. It's only a 2-year deal, but I don't know. They're gonna jack it up, whoever they pick up, man. They're probably gonna take a tight end, to be honest.
I mean, they did. I'm not sure. Austin Seferian-Jenkins is back in the building. I know they did sign Eric Tomlinson back, but I think tight end is still a question for them, even though they have that kid that they picked from Clemson last year. I don't think he was really the top of his class, though, at that position. So I think they're going quarterback. taking Saquon Barkley to me is a can't miss prospect. No matter who you are, no matter where you are, you could take that kid, and he'll probably find a way to give you 800 yards, if not this year, then next year. So they're going to have options. They're going to have less options in total, obviously. So they're really kind of all in. So when a team goes all in, what are they doing? Especially a team like the Jets, it seems like they're going to be going all in for a quarterback, or maybe they're just really buying into that best player available number 3. When you're playing best player available number 6, like they have actually a couple times recently, you're really waiting to see what falls to you. And so what has fallen to them is great defensive players in Leonard Williams and Jamal Adams. But, quarterback's still an area of need for them. It's an area where they're not necessarily, bound up in a big financial commitment. Both their quarterbacks on the roster, they're big guys right now, McCown and Bridgewater, on 1-year deals essentially. And in total, that's a $15-16 million commitment this year. So to have that much, in the quarterback room, obviously, the rookie deals for a second and a fourth round guy probably don't come into play too much, especially when we're talking about the 3rd overall pick. But still, if you can get a rookie guy and have him really basically start over again, just like you tried to with Christian Hackenberg, you tried to with Bryce Petty. So this time you're going to get a guy that you really believe in. Hopefully, or the best player available at the draft at that point. Like, whoever it is at 3 is going to be, considered among the top guys. And this is one of those classes that has a lot of quarterbacks. So hopefully we're getting somebody good here. Other than that, they've made their moves with their quarterbacks. Isaiah Crowell, as Pat mentioned, Avery Williamson from the Titans comes in to help, soften the blow of losing Demario Davis. And we'll see how they perform.
They just signed about 25 minutes ago former Seahawk in chief Kevin Pierre-Louis. He's a middle linebacker, special teams guy, and they actually did not pick up ASJ. He's going to the Jaguars. So,
oh wow,
yeah. For what it is worth, Eric Tomlinson does average like 23 yards a reception.
Yeah, he's just not on the field that much. Maybe that'll change.
Yeah. Big dude, man. He is a big dude. He's got his.
I like the hair. I like what he does. But he's also been a guy that's been on special teams too. So we'll see how that all shakes out. I don't know if ASJ on the Jaguars is the best fit, but hopefully it is. It's probably the place that was willing to give him the most money, just because he's on probably a year-to-year type of thing or a short-term type of thing at this point in his career. But yeah, the Jets are improving, and clearly they've been very active. I give McCagnon a lot of credit for the moves that he's made, and just continuing to be active and trying to rebuild. And if some of these things pan out, then it's been written that they might have some more job security than people think. So there is some risk, obviously, too. If some of these things don't pan out, they might be out of there quicker than people think too. But moving right along, keeping in the AFC East. I want to talk about the Bills next. Clearly, they went out and got A.J. McCarron, who is a valued and coveted free agent quarterback. We always like to touch on those. What's that? How does that strike you just right off the bat, Pat?
I like A.J. McCarron. I don't think he's going to be a star in this league, but you really feel comfortable going into week 1 with Nathan Peterman. I wasn't a big Nathan Peterman guy. Pitt doesn't really shine out too many great guys. Tom Savage, Tyler Palko. The last Pitt guy, I believe Dan Marino is a Pitt guy, and that's 1983. So they're doing also a lot of stuff on the defensive side of the ball, throwing some money in there and whatnot. Re-signing Kyle Williams. The Bills are weird for me, man. I feel like they can always be so good, and they just refuse to be. I take it offensively,
Well, I think that's been a struggle for a lot of the teams in the AFC East. Even the Dolphins, for the better part of this decade have been a team that even the experts at the beginning of the year say look out for. The Bills. They've said look out for these teams. One of these teams could go 9-7 or 10-6 and somehow sneak into the playoffs in an off year for the AFC, something like that. And it just never really transpires. And if it does, I think the Dolphins have made it. weren't the Bills even in the playoffs? So I mean, you never know what can happen in the AFC because it's so Patriots and everybody else. But it's I think the Bills fan base is definitely frustrated with the performance on the field. The Dolphins fan base is definitely not exhilarated by the performance on the field. And neither are the Jets fans, but they're all loyal and diehard fan bases, or especially here in New York, especially upstate and especially in the Meadowlands. I can't speak to Miami just because I haven't seen it as much personally, but I like what the Bills are doing. That Cordy Glenn trade where they get the number 12 pick, they swap their first round picks to get that, and they also kind of swap a 5 for a 6, but they're moving up. I've read storylines that they might continue to try to move up in this first round, and that's why maybe the Jets were, maybe they felt pressure or they wanted to secure a higher pick more quickly. Kyle Williams, like you said, is coming back is huge. He's been a big player for them, and along with that, I think maybe some of their rookie contracts that they've tendered, or Javaris Cadet and Tywin Jones as running backs. And then obviously we like their tight end room a lot in Logan Thomas, who they brought in, and then Nick O'Leary have both been tendered. So Nick O'Leary is sports royalty. If you don't know, he's Jack Nicklaus's grandson, but they've said that every single time he's ever kind of been in front of a camera. But Logan Thomas is also –
It's always it comes down to Shady McCoy. And they got Kelvin Benjamin back. I don't want to say they're a quarterback away. I think a lot of teams are a quarterback away, but I do think that a quarterback makes them 11-5 easily. Could it be McCarron? He was a Vontaze Burfict bonehead move away from winning a playoff game as a sophomore in the league. So you can throw that air quotes winner out there. Played well when he was called upon. I think 6 touchdowns and 2 career interceptions. I don't think the Bengals really wanted to give him up, but I would keep going with Andy Dalton personally. Andy Dalton's my line of demarcation for quarterbacks. If your quarterback's better than Andy Dalton, you're good. You're good. If he's worse than Andy, and that will change between Joe Flacco. It was the Alex Smith line for like a couple of years, and Jay Cutler took it over. So it really depends, man. But overall, the Bills are fresh off a playoff appearance. They lost to the Jaguars, obviously 10-3. But that was with Tyrod getting hurt. I'm glad Tyrod's out of there. I like him. I don't think he's a star.
Tyrod's got a great situation for himself. The Cleveland Browns made a great series of moves.
Yeah, it's definitely looking for a 5-11, 4-12 season, which I think a lot of Browns fans would take, to be honest.
If the Browns had a 5-11 season like the Jets just did, I mean, like, the Browns fans would be ecstatic.
Well, the Jets had and this is terrible to say, but it was a very good 5-11 season. Like, they played very hard. They beat the Chiefs in a shootout. That Austin Seferian-Jenkins touchdown they had called, like, not their way against the Patriots. There's a win. They played hard, and I think they even played the Saints pretty hard. With Bryce Petty. So it's like,
I mean, they could have won some of those games for sure. I was actually surprised that their season ended the way it did. I thought Josh McCown was almost running around like they're like almost as good as Fitzpatrick was. So it was a really as a Jets fan for me. I mean, I was not necessarily living and dying with the team each week as much as I have in the past, but so I was very pleasantly surprised, and I was very happy as a Jets fan. And the number 6 pick seemed to be a thing with the New York Jets. So hopefully now that they've even moved up from that, and they must have a guy that they love to do that, right? So and the Bills, with McCoy, maybe bringing in Chris Ivory can help, take some of the load off him just in terms of the injuries that he's had the past few years. On defense, they signed Vontae Davis. That was a while back, but I'm not sure what the state of their defensive backfield looks like, to be honest.
They have that kid, Tre'Davious White.
Oh, the kid from USC they picked.
He's a good player. but having Vontae Davis on your team isn't a terrible thing. He's a
Right.
former Pro Bowler, played pretty well up until like a year ago. I think he kind of had some mental like things he had to work out. Whether it's
Well, plus
just
he's older now too. I mean,
yeah, and maybe it's a transitional guy, maybe it's just a free agent. I'm not impressed with their receivers after Kelvin Benjamin. I know they got Jordan Matthews, a couple guys up there. But we'll see, man. Like they should have never got rid of Sammy Watkins. I don't think they should have.
I mean, yeah, Sammy Watkins is a guy you want on your team, like no matter what. He makes that receiving core better every receiving core in the league that he'd be on. So
yeah, I can't wait to talk about that, man. Going to the Chiefs, overpaid, but man, that's a great pickup.
Right. Yeah. So we'll get into the Chiefs probably real soon because Pat follows them extremely closely. We just felt like with the big news today, we were going to talk about the Jets, and so we might as well talk about the rest of the AFC East. Like what the Bills are doing, we'll see. To me, it doesn't really jump off the page as anything that might change what they've been doing the last few years in terms of wins and losses. So we'll see. I mean, the AFC East is the Patriots and whoever else can maybe make it interesting. So the Dolphins might be able to do that. They restructured Tannehill's contract to open up $11 million. They let Sue Timmons go. I can't believe Timmons was even still on a roster, not like a coaching role at this point or something. They say Donkey Kong Sue might be a fit in Seattle. Cody Parkey left the Dolphins. He got a good deal in Chicago. Let's see. Obviously, the big news was the Jarvis Landry trade, right? So they get a 4 and a 7 back, and they shed a contract that I believe was going to be around $15 million this year. Despite Jarvis Landry being a very, 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 very good player, they get something back in return, and they shed his contract. I'd love to hear Pat's takes on the next couple moves. We'll try to keep on the defensive line, right? So they get Robert Quinn for 4th round, and they swap the 6th round pick, so really just kind of like a 4th round pick there. And then they signed Albert Wilson, and then they re-signed William Hayes. So to me, you're losing Ndamukong Suh, and he's a great player, but he also is what he is in terms of maybe what he might detract from your team at times. So, and here they've got some people coming back and bringing in some people that really look like they're going to shore up that D line. How does that look?
Well, not only that, they also picked up Josh Sidon, a Pro Bowl guard from the Bears. So that offensive line looking pretty decent. Daniel Kilgore, looking good. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty impressed with the defense just because of guys like Kiko Alonso there. Cameron Wake is the ageless wonder. I wouldn't have released Sue because they do have a bunch of money that they will pay him, and he was on the contract and all that. But ultimately, it was their decision. I like Kiko Alonso. I like what's the gentleman's name? Hayes isn't a bad pickup,
He's a good run stopper from what I hear, and then you know Albert Wilson pretty well, right?
Oh, I think the Albert Wilson move is an awesome move. Like it is. Not to sound redundant, but he had the best rapport with Pat Mahomes, and it's actually really upsetting that they are getting rid of Albert Wilson. Picking him up, you're taking a slot guy. He catches. He's sneaky quick. Like he has a lot of long receptions for us, and he made a lot of clutch catches and whatnot as well. Robert Quinn, obviously, I think he had in 2013 or 2012, 19 and a half sacks. So that's a good move. And then Amendola, really going to help. I think that's going to help Tannehill or that young quarterback. I think those two quarterbacks are really going to help out. You have the deep threat of Kenny Stills. Their receiving core is looking a lot better each and every day.
Kenny Stills can ball. He just never really has. But he's a good player.
He's a one-trick pony to me. He can just go deep. He catches a lot. He catches a lot of deep balls, man. Like
right. So now they bring in two guys to run the crossers and the short routes and the curls and the cuts and the comebacks and all kinds of stuff. It's
well, I wouldn't be surprised if they cut Kenny Stills because they have the diet Tyreek Hill in Jakeem Grant, and that kid is quick, man. He's a Texas.
I know he's quick, but again, that's a project player. I don't know if you cut Kenny Stills for a project player.
Well, I don't because you got Devontae Parker's there, and he's starting to come into his own.
That fills the same role.
Yeah, he's a number. He's I want to say a number one receiver, but he could be a number one receiver.
He's a deep threat. He's got speed.
He's a big dude too. He's not tiny at all. Like he can body a dude in the red zone. You got him. You got Amendola. Then you also have Stills. Then you have they just released Julius Thomas. Yeah. So we'll see, man. There's a lot going on, and their defensive backfield isn't terrible. With Rashad Jones back there, you're doing pretty well. The other kid, what the hell is his name? Xavier Howard. I think he's a Baylor guy. He's definitely coming up to be a Pro Bowl. Maybe draft a corner. If you don't take a quarterback, draft a corner. I don't think that's a bad move.
Yeah, I mean, I remember watching them on one of the Monday Night Football games last year, and Gruden was really impressed with their defensive backfield. So that's always a good sign. Do you know? I actually should probably try to look this up. I don't know where they're at in the draft, but unfortunately, but if spending a first round pick on a corner, you should be able to get a good corner in return.
I think they're at 13. No, they're at 11.
13, you said?
No, they're at 11. Because they're at 11.
Okay. So that's right outside the top 10 there.
They could pick up Denzel Ward, the corner out of Ohio State. He might be able to.
That would be a great pickup for them.
Yeah, it's him. He might be able to pick. He might. I think. The Bills are at 9 now, so they move from 12 to 9. Dolphins at 11. The Bills, if they pick up a quarterback, then I think he falls.
Well, yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see if a quarterback's still there, or even if they go maybe Lamar Jackson or something like that. And then, I mean, to me, the top 10 has been so offensively focused that I just, I think that, a corner might fall, so especially with the Jets, moving around the way they did, the Colts could go any number of ways with their pick now, and so could the Broncos and some different teams. But, the Dolphins definitely have solved enough of their question marks to this point in the start of the league year that they can be flexible in the NFL draft. And I don't think there's much more you can ask of your GM, with this many days into free agency and such.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm really curious to see what they do. I
like the Bill. I like the Bills so much recently from. Excuse me. I like the Bills so much recently just with Tyrod, And
I think they're gonna go. I think they got to pick Josh Allen, to be honest, just because of the cold weather. I don't think you can bring any of the California kids. I don't think you can bring Mayfield. I don't think you can bring Jackson there, because a lot of people don't account for that. How cold it is up there.
And that's hurt. I feel like Buffalo especially, but are they that high enough to take Josh Allen? Wouldn't Josh Allen have to fall to them?
At 9, I think they do. I think he comes there. It's just.
You're saying that a quarterback like one of Tuck's favorite quarterbacks might act like Darnold or Rosen might not go to the Giants and then go to the Jets, and then you're like kind of quarterbacks maybe open season after that.
Dude, there could be 7 quarterbacks taken in the first round because they all just play off each other. So if everyone goes in, right? So Sam Darnold doesn't get chosen number 1 for whatever reason. They are just like, I don't know. He did coke the night before and he shows up to the green room. If something ridiculous happens, right? The Browns skip him or they find something out, and they take Minka Fitzpatrick or they take someone, right? They just skip quarterback completely and they go at Saquon Barkley, best player available, for instance. the Giants are like, dude, what do we do now? And then the Jets start freaking out because they're like, whoa, okay, he was not supposed to be on the board. Everyone's starting to freak out, and then it trickles down to the part where now people will trade up, people will move around. It screws everything up. So like, it really depends, man. Because I think Case Keenum actually screws a lot of this up going to the Broncos. Because you would think they would try to start over, but I guess they kind of care about Paxton Lynch just a little bit, or Gary Kubiak, who didn't draft Keenum, who signed Keenum in 2012, was on his side. Thought that they can do something with Keenum.
I want to look at things not from the perspective that something crazy is going to happen and one of these guys is going to fall. I mean, if anything, to me, Mayfield might do something like that, but that's just my own personal, dig bias at him. But Mayfield, to me, the Jets move almost confirms this connection between the Jets and Mayfield. Like, Darnold might not be available, Rosen might not be available, Allen may or may not be available, but at 3, Baker Mayfield's probably available. So are the Jets going to go ahead and take Baker Mayfield when they may have gotten him at 6? They might not have. Especially with the timing of things, how things transpired with the Broncos. People involved in this particular trade might not have had their eye on what was going on with the Broncos quite as clearly as they are trying to move up 3 spaces. And I don't think it would be wise to take Baker Mayfield at 3 when you could have gotten him at 6. So hopefully they feel very comfortable with Allen, Rosen, or Darnold. Or I don't think Darnold's going to slip just because I think he was the consensus guy kind of for the longest aggregate time. But Rosen has been linked to the Giants a lot, but I don't think the Giants necessarily need a quarterback, so it may be Rosen. I think Rosen actually might play well in New York if he can put on a little weight and just if the Jets somehow pull together a very good offensive line or an offensive line coach or something of that nature.
But do you think Miami takes a quarterback? Because I don't think they do.
At 11?
Yeah, do you think they do?
It depends who's like Lamar Jackson or something. Like, because Lamar Jackson to me reminds me of Ryan Tannehill in the pocket, like what he can do.
Yeah, he's a lot quicker than people give him credit for, Tannehill.
Well, yeah, he played receiver at A&M, but I know, and so many people just like don't even, because that wasn't even like a big storyline when he was coming out and getting drafted. Like it was just always quarterback. But but Jackson, the speed is such a storyline. So I think that Lamar Jackson, I think he's a much more technically sound quarterback people give him credit for. I think to me he's more that type of not the small school prospect because he went to Louisville for crying out loud, but that kind of prospect that might be in question about his fundamentals. Like, I'm not being very articulate, but you know what I'm trying to get at. He's that athletic type that is maybe not the greatest quote unquote thrower of the ball, but to me, I've never seen him make terrible bad throws. But then again, I've only seen highlights of the kid because he makes so many because the ball's just completely in his hands and on his shoulders the entire time for Louisville. So I don't know. I don't think the Dolphins necessarily need to go quarterback, but they could. David Fales isn't a name that strikes you as a guy that's coming up, in the reins, but he is I always thought was a good prospect. But who would you think is a better prospect, Davis Webb or David Fales?
I'd go David Fales, man.
That's interesting.
You just got game film on him, man. Like, I like Davis Webb. He could be good. He could be terrible. I know that's a cop-out of an answer, but ultimately it could be a lot of things that happen with him, he just hasn't played in a game. With David Fales, I've seen him do a lot of good things. He's come in a couple times, and he's played in live-action games, not just the preseason. So, like I said, I think he threw 1 touchdown, 1 interception this year. I do think they're gonna. I think you gotta get a veteran in there. So maybe they pick up like Blaine Gabbert or something like that. He's still on the market, or Drew Stanton maybe. But
right.
You don't know. We both don't know. So,
I don't know. I don't think they're looking to make a move at quarterback right now, just because they restructured their guy. Obviously with Jay Cutler walking out of there, Matt Moore walking out of there. They don't have Matt Moore, anymore. So that's kind of a big change for them. But so do they believe Fales can be that guy? Maybe he can. And also, I know Tannehill's been injured a bunch, but I also don't foresee him getting injured. That might just be a weird personal view that I have, but he's not a guy that I look at and I say, oh, he'll get injured, he'll miss at least 2 to 4 starts. I don't say that when I look at Tannehill. Maybe a lot of other people do, but I don't know. But I think we should touch on the Pats just a little bit, because clearly they make the rest of the teams that we've talked about so far completely obsolete. And that's just so frustrating to have to say. But it's just true in terms of the standings come every December. So they acquired via trade Jason McCourty and Danny Shelton, guys that are clearly going to fit their system. They signed Jeremy Hill. They signed Matt Tobin, perhaps to replace Nate Solder. And they also signed Adrian Claiborne, formerly of the Falcons. So to me, I just, I think I said once before on the show that you tend to sign players that play well against you.
Yeah, he had a good Super Bowl against them.
Yeah. So, so that's just a Tux take confirmed for me, personal score. But let's see, a move that I think we both really like, re-signing Rex Burkhead to a 3-year, $9.75 million deal, $5.5 million guaranteed, $3.75 in incentives, add $500,000 each year in a roster bonus. So, although I think it's probably a 3-year, $9.75 million deal, the fact that he's coming back to return to that room that's probably the biggest room in the greater Boston area. Rex Burkhead did tremendous things last year, so I'll be looking to see some more of the same out of him. They bring back Brandon Bold into that same room, so we got 3 bodies coming back in there. Let's see, they also have Brandon King and Nate Ebner coming back to the defensive backfield / special teams / wherever Coach Belichick likes to put people. So, that's pretty much the headlines. Clearly they lose some guys, but does losing guys ever hurt the Patriots? I mean, do we ever sit there at the end of the next year and say, wow, if they had only had, even Randy Moss, if they only have even Randy Moss here, again, next year, they would have done a lot better. But maybe they would have said that throughout the season, but they've been just so successful year in and year out that I feel like we haven't had to say those kinds of things.
Well, they are bringing back Julian Edelman, Brandon Cooks another year. Philip Dorsett's in there another year. Gronk hopefully makes it all 16 games. I don't think they're bringing back Martellus Bennett. Dwayne Allen is there. No. Also, You got
Dwayne Allen backup.
Yeah, is the backup. You have another guy who could be a preseason All-American, I'll call him, or a preseason All-Star. MVP is Jacob Hollister. Is another guy they have there. He's a tight end receiver, kind of like a tinier version of Gronk, actually. So there's a lot of potential. Obviously, they're the kings of the castle, man. There's really nothing else you can do with it. Brady comes out. I just think everyone's ready for Brady to be gone and then see what they do and see if Belichick leaves and what's the deal with McDaniels. Is there actual strife there? There's a lot going on. So.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like McDaniels, if anything, has backed himself into a corner, because even the loyalty he may or may not have earned coming back, the whole thing, can't necessarily sit well with everybody. Especially, I feel like Belichick is so keep everything in house, that who knows? Yeah, I mean, I feel like Belichick has all the leverage, has all the control. We I don't know. We probably shouldn't get into too many conspiracy theories about what may or may not be going on at one of the only teams or franchises that I can think has legitimate leverage over some of the real institutions in sports, like if the Patriots weren't around these last 17 years, everything would have been a lot worse for everybody. And even as a Jets fan, like, yeah, it would have been great for the Patriots to not been around the last 17 years. But then again, what would the NFL look like? We can't even begin to describe it really. So, it looks like they're on the track to more of the same.
There's really nothing else to even say about them. I like the Danny Shelton move. I think that's a big deal. Really shoring up the run game, especially all three teams are going to have good running backs. So he's a large man to move around. Kenyon Drake, Isaiah Crowell, and Bilal Powell are definitely above average running backs. Not stars, but definitely not in the lower half of the league.
And Shady and Ivory.
Yeah. So you're going to need that. It starts up front. Linebacker, that's what they sucked on last year, man. They need to do something there. I don't pick up. Kyle Van Noy was offered an extension, but he doesn't impress me. They picked up Cassius Marsh, ended up.
That's a name that's been bouncing around.
Well, he got released in the middle of the season, and then went towards the 49ers. So I think he might be over there. I'm not even sure where he's at. So there's a lot that they need to work on. Losing Malcolm Butler, you saw what happened in the NFL in the Super Bowl. Super Bowl 52. Good luck with that. Devin McCourty, I know one of them's on the team. Now they're both on the team.
Right. They're reunited. Weren't they both on the team a number of years ago?
They were tight ends together, I believe.
Okay.
So yeah. So they're playing together. Maybe that helps out. Chung is a pretty good. I like to call him a rover. He'll be able to kind of drop down and play. Get physical with a slot receiver, or get physical with a tight end if they're putting the tight end in the slot a lot. So they do have that going with them.
Patrick Chung also plays outside linebacker. Like over 200 snaps a year, something crazy like that. You know?
So there's a lot of positives, but I'm curious to see what the coordinators do, with the new defensive coordinator coming in. I don't even know his name. But is Belichick going to be more involved in the defense now?
He always was. He always was. Come on. Let's not kid ourselves.
He was, but
Matt Patricia did take a lot off his plate, but
we'll see, we'll see. I love Belichick as much as I hate the Patriots. I think Belichick is everything that's, I think he is the way the NFL should be run, as far as it's a privilege to play this game. It's about the team. Kick rocks. I will trade you, Jamie Collins. I do not care. Because if you look at what the Seahawks are going through right now, they're going through okay, we were this young ragtag team. Let's all get paid. We're not Russell Wilson. Why are you not doing all this by yourself,
Right.
So winning destroys teams. That's why they don't repeat.
Well, it does for everybody else. And then Belichick, as coach and GM, manages to hold it all together.
Because he doesn't play that game. Because he tells Jamie Collins, I don't need you, and wins a Super Bowl that year.
Right, but how many other teams can go in the later rounds, 4 and below, and draft corners and have them be good? Not even necessarily consistently, but enough times that he's, getting it right.
Yeah. He found Alabama. Well, he did find out. He found Malcolm Butler on the side of the road in Alabama, which is a state his student, Nick Saban, recruits him. People don't realize that Nick Saban missed this kid. He is an Alabama kid. He went to Western Alabama, and people forget that.
Right. And so there's only so many coaches in the league that can even try to say that they do things like that. I guess, we'll touch on Andy Reid and how we like what he's been able to do in his career at some point. But Belichick, to me, when he did that thing with LeGarrette Blount the other year, and he offered him a unrestricted free agent tender not a franchise tag, but if nobody else signs you, you're coming back on a $2 million deal or something crazy like that. And I think LeGarrette Blount just got signed for another $4.5 million deal. So this guy's never made $5 million his career.
Yeah, he's made like $6.3 million his whole career, and he scored 18 touchdowns in a season, like 3,000-yard seasons. Underpaid, completely underpaid,
undervalued, man.
But he's a contractor. He just signs those 1-year deals, man. That's all he does.
I know it's craziness. It's craziness, but then people like Bill Belichick say, and only Bill Belichick can make running back by committee look so flawless, right? Like, he's like, and again, this is something I really respect. I'm going to sign James Devlin every single year as my fullback, so I don't have to worry about that. And this is the NFL, so there's not going to be a position that exists in the sport that I'm not going to have a competent player at. So James Devlin's there, and then you got literally 6 or 7 guys, 4 of which are consistent contributors. Like, just nobody else can do that well when every other team has the same situation going on in early August and they just can't figure it out. Like, this guy is like a magician, or he literally goes home at night and reads the rule book to the NFL like a lawyer would have to read like law publications or something. Like, I don't understand how this guy does it so much better than everybody else.
Yeah. Well, we got about 3.5 minutes left, Tuck. Pretty satisfied with this conversation. Good Sunday night, Saturday night to discuss football rather than drink our face off, obviously. But I don't know, man. Sum it all up. Let's go early predictions right now. These are going to change. I'm going to be a little bit brazen. Get my Baker Mayfield on. I got the Patriots going 12-4. I'm going to say a 9-7 Dolphins, pretty safe there. A 7-9 Bills, and then a 5-11 Jets again.
Wow, no, I'm going better than that for the Jets. So
let's go with 3 quarterbacks playing. Make sure we put that in.
No, right. So I'm going 6-10 because I'm not going to go to 7-9 for them. So 6-10 for the Jets. And again, I haven't even thought about this, but let's see. The Bills, they're better than the Jets to me right now on paper. So 7-9 for them. The Dolphins, I don't think that they're better than the Bills on paper at this point necessarily. I mean, I guess they are just top down. So let's go 8-8 for the Dolphins. 7-9 for the Bills, 6-10 for the Jets. Like, this is just numbers wise. And then the Pats, who knows? Like, come on, they can go 12-4 again. Like, come on, that's just like, one game. A couple people have injuries, and so they have 4 losses this season. So the Pats go 12-4 and just mock everyone else who, maybe the Bills or the Dolphins sniff the playoffs, but and the Jets, could surprise everybody and do that, but they'd have to have some crazy play out of a quarterback, not what we expect, like McCown to have 8 games and then Bridgewater to come in and then a rookie to come in. So, Patriots will run away with this one again, fellas.
Well, I definitely agree with you that the Jets won't surprise anyone. Either way, awesome time tonight. Guys, I know we didn't plug our sponsors, and obviously at the end, because everyone listens to the end, obviously. Yep. But make sure y'all check out our sponsors, Live Positive 365. Use the promo code TUCK, get yourself a discount on the massage. And also hit up Kilo Charlie Clothing, veteran owned and operated. They make Panda, they make skits, and they'll make you laugh. Other than that, guys, thank you guys for coming out. Really appreciate it. Have a great night, guys. And
comment, subscribe.
Comment, subscribe. All right, good night, everyone.